This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate MarriageCast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 49. And Ryan, we are back from vacation, and we're just so excited to be back with you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. We have a great show on marriage and the importance of community in your marriage. And I'm sure you all have your communities, but we're going to go a little deeper into it and what specific type of community you really want to look for, and sharing some scripture on that and digging into that. So we want to share a little bit about our vacation. We'll get to that here too. I think we should give them some like high level like overviews of it.
All right.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But welcome to you, our listener. We're so glad that you're making this investment in your marriage, in your relationship. And we just want to remind you, we are on social media. We're on Instagram, Celebrate MarriageCast. And of course, wherever you're listening, whether that's YouTube or Spotify or Google or Apple Podcasts, just be sure to follow us, to, do all the things that help the algorithms and help us to get out there, because you never know who in your circle is going to be maybe wrestling with some of these issues. And the more that you put that out there, the more that you are likely to help someone in your own community and maybe someone you don't even know. So thank you for joining us, and we're just glad you're here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ryan, should we tell them where we went?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to share?
We went to Iceland.
Yeah, the country of Iceland.
And you guys, you probably learned this in 5th grade geology, but Iceland is green.
Yeah.
And also, because we actually flew over Greenland to get there, Greenland is very icy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a giant glacier.
Yeah.
Or as they say in Iceland, glacier.
Right. Yeah. It turns out it was a big trick that the Vikings played on everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did learn that.
At least that's what they told us.
I would believe it, because it was so beautiful there in Iceland. They decided that they would give it a name that would really deter people from wanting to go there. Iceland.
Yeah.
Don't come here.
Right.
It's icy.
Right.
Just kidding. It's gorgeous and lush and green and full of waterfalls and geysers and animals and tiny little horses and goats. And a couple of glaciers.
Glaciers.
Right.
Yeah.
And the best water. We did not have to buy bottled water because it is actually fresh glacier water.
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to keep saying glacier.
Yeah, I like the sound of
That's how they say it there.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was great. Ryan, share with our listeners favorite part of the trip. And also, if you're not watching, you need to know that Ryan's ACL surgery is this Friday, the 30th. So currently he is in this bionic man type brace on his knee. And believe it or not, but you better believe it, he was crutching his way through Iceland.
Yeah.
With his knee brace and his crutches.
Yeah. I think the only place that I did not go was behind a waterfall.
Right.
I looked at it and thought better of it. I feel like I would have slipped and fell into the waterfall.
It was a little dangerous, but unfortunately you missed the duet I wanted to do with you, the TLC, like, don't go chase.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, I think I did sing that back there.
Yeah. Nice.
So, favorite part?
Oh, favorite part. Probably obviously waterfalls. I think it's super cool to see. And then we kind of had a bonus stop of seeing seals.
Yes.
I've never seen a seal before. We live
in
the middle of the U.S.
We're landlocked.
Yeah. There's not a lot of seals around us.
No.
I've never seen one.
No, that was super cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. See them. They're really hard to see, but then once you see them, it's kind of like, where's Waldo? You can kind of spot them.
See it everywhere. And I feel like it's almost kind of a great metaphor that you could apply to a lot of areas of your life, because we hadn't seen it. And then once someone pointed it out, it was like, oh my gosh, there it is. There it is. There's another. And it's almost, you could apply it to any area. Looking for the good in your spouse.
Yeah.
Once you start intentionally looking for it, know what to look for, you would see it in many areas.
Wow. That's a good tie-in, Michelle. I didn't...
Brought to you by the Icelandic seals.
Wow, yeah. How about you, Michelle? What was your favorite part?
So we did this kind of, you could call it kind of touristy thing. We did a goat walk. I found it on Airbnb Experiences. You guys, if you haven't done Airbnb Experiences, I highly recommend it. Locals leading the way. We started with these during the pandemic. We did them online. We did coffee making classes from Mexico City right in our kitchen. We did drawing classes, all sorts of different classes. But if you travel somewhere, even in your own community, you can find these experiences through Airbnb. And we found a goat walking tour. This gal had a chunk of land and her goats kept reproducing, and she decided she needed to monetize that. So she started to provide these goat walking tours. And from her land, she had like a gushing stream, a little waterfall area, rocks, pastures. You could see volcanic like mountains behind. It was totally picturesque.
Yeah.
Just put it on a postcard.
Yeah.
And we got to walk these cool goats through it. And all of the goats had these Lord of the Rings names, which is kind of fun. And you got to walk
Gandalf,
which you were really
I was really excited about that. And it turns out he's this goat was really kind of old and kind of hobbled. So it worked great for me because not being that nimble myself, me and this goat we got along well.
I think we need to point out the fact that the goat was probably the wise goat of the herd.
Oh yeah.
So that is why you got assigned him.
Yes.
Compliment.
That's great.
So,
I like that. Yeah.
Today we're talking about community and things for allowing us to share our vacation. I think it's just so fun. Travel for us has been so great. I think it's given us a great respect of people and cultures and understanding and empathy. And it's just been so good for us and our kids. And we hope that you've gotten to experience some fun travel this summer too, whether it's been in your backyard, your neighboring city, wherever you go, there's always chances to meet new people, experience new places as a family. So, Ryan, we're talking about community today. And I guess the questions that we want our listeners to really ponder is, what community are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is such an important dialogue. And I think maybe before we get started, let's maybe jump in, Michelle, to some scripture and see what scripture actually has to say about community.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have actually quite a few here. And I think what we could even do, Ryan, is as we read them, kind of respond a little.
Sure.
But as we were talking with Pastor Chris, the marriage and family pastor on staff here, he had really put forward some of these verses as we were talking about community. And I appreciate the ones that he gave here. So I'm going to start with Matthew 18, verse 20. And this says, "For where 2 or 3 come together in my name, there am I with them."
Yeah.
I've heard that one referenced a lot for prayer, but just in general, I like that for community. There's power in community.
Yeah.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered. It's like a life group.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what I thought of, Michelle, is a life group, a small group, even like a marriage mentor that's walking alongside you to grow your relationship in Christ, and then as a result with each other. Yeah, so good.
I think too, when you have more people, it's kind of more of a focus. You know, I don't know about you guys, but when it's just me, if I'm praying on my own or whatever, sometimes I can kind of be a little squirrely with, I get distracted. But there is power if you are praying with a group. There's just something so powerful about doing that with another believer. Yeah. Where it's just like this laser focus. Yeah. And it just brings it really, I feel like, so much more, not to life, but kind of.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, I have 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 through 20. Let's talk about the body. One body, many parts. The body is a unit, though it is made up of many parts, and though all its parts are many, they form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Now the body is not made up of one part, but of many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, It would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in the fact, God has arranged the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body.
Yeah, I think just going to that, as you look at a body of believers, I think we've shared this multiple times that in your relationship, in your marriage, you're going to have those moments, those challenges, those things that come up. And I think that's why, like, the body of Christ, the church, the community of believers is so important, because you can have people to walk with you through those things.
Yeah, and I think the example, the ear, the nose, all of that, I think that we've all probably had times in our life where we've wanted to be, I want to be the eye. Why do I have to be the foot? But God has made us so incredibly unique. But the cool thing about coming together with other Christians, other believers, is that they're going to have different perspectives. So you better believe the ear is going to have a different perspective than the eye, than the nose, than the taste buds. And Ryan, I think back to when we were very, very early on in a couples life group. One of the things that we loved about that group so much is that there was an individual, the leader at the time, that was so kind of, I don't want to say like bulldog, but kind of just would just, not in a mean way, but they had such a great way of just calling things out that we never would have had on our own.
Right.
And that really pushed us into higher accountability, transparency, really elevating and raising the bar for our walk.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And we couldn't have done that without that body and those unique perspectives, because that was how they were wired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that.
Absolutely.
Being around people that are different than you.
Yeah.
And going back to our travel, that's been really cool, is seeing things that are different, opening your eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it gives you empathy too. When you're around people that aren't, all ears, it gives you empathy for what it's like to be an eye or, a hand.
Right.
So, okay. We have Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. And I'm going to note here too, it says, so carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. The law that is referring to, I have this in my Bible notes, is love the Lord your God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. That's the law it's referring to. I love this, Ryan. I think especially even reflecting back to how our faith community has carried us through all of the different instances this year, last year, the year before. I feel like there has been a literal carrying of our burdens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a powerful thing, to have people that can lift you up and carry you when you're going through those valleys, whether personally or in your relationship, whatever it is, to have that. I think, yeah.
Do you know what burden I seem to have every single day?
What's that?
Preparing dinner.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what burden people have lifted from time to time? They've brought us dinner. And that is a great burden carried.
Yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
to the people that have brought
amazing.
dinner throughout some of these trying times. So whether it was your broken leg or, your ACL now, or things with my mom, for someone to be like, I'm thinking Pastor Chris and his wife Karen came over and they're like, we're just going to bring you some pizza. And it was such a great burden carried. Like, thank you. Does anyone else feel like that? Every day, it feels like, oh my gosh, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
Why does that feel like such a burden?
I don't know.
I mean, dinner is great. I like to eat.
Yeah, it's great, but
the planning of it,
making it and all of the stuff that goes into it.
I don't remember it being so difficult, but I feel like maybe the busier we are, I don't know, the more, I don't know.
Maybe it's because I continue to break stuff. Maybe that's the bigger problem.
I do think we are at a high level of our maximum capacity. Yeah. So I think the more we have on our plate, the more that dinner feels like kind of a burden. So anyways.
You're telling me I need to stop breaking stuff.
Yes, please.
That sounds good.
Stop breaking yourself, my love.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
All right. Ephesians 3:17 through 19. This says, actually, I'm going to start in verse 16 actually, because this is in the middle of a sentence. I pray that out of his glorious riches, he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the saints to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. For me, it is just like being like Jesus to other people.
Yeah.
Here at Celebrate, we say, we want you to meet Jesus, then be Jesus. So to live out a life showing love to others is a powerful thing.
I think it's spot on.
All right. Got a couple more for you guys here.
Okay.
This is kind of fun just to flip through and give commentary on it. Okay. This is from Hebrews. Okay. Hebrews 10, chapter 10, verses 24 through 25. And let us consider, I'll make sure I'm in the right chapter here. Yep, I am. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. I feel like there's a few good things in here.
Well, I think instantly, I thought of encouragement. We all need it and we all thrive off of it. And I think it's not something I've ever heard anybody say, hey, stop encouraging me so much.
What is the ratio? You need 10 encouragements for every one negative or something like that?
Something. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
And for whatever reason, you remember the negative more than the positive. So I feel like you need a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is cool. People that we have been in life group with, we're not currently in group with them, but I got a message today. Hey, thinking about you. Know Ella's going to college. How are you doing? How's Ryan? Just that encouragement of knowing that I'm sure, everyone can say they have friends, but to have friends that really care about you so deeply and not just on a surface level, but really deeply care about you, your faith journey, how you're doing in your walk, all of that.
Yeah.
So I like that part about encourage one another. The other parts that stood out to me on this one, Ryan, were let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. This kind of struck a little bit of a chord with me thinking about some of the conversation we had preparing for this show about, I think even coming out post-pandemic, a lot of that fell away. And I think a lot of, I think things just changed and people did fall away from some of the things they were doing. Now, some of that maybe is, good change. It kind of opened up ways for how we can do things more digitally, virtually, stuff like that. But I do feel like I know people that got out of the habit of being in community. And I think it's just so important to get back into that routine. Would you agree?
I think I definitely think there is a I'll say it. There's so much I think loneliness, and I think people are more isolated now than ever.
Yeah.
And you could say some of that was COVID, and I certainly think part of it is, part of it changed how we do things. I think of some of the things that were normal. Like going to a movie. Well, now you can stream any movie you want from your couch, basically. So some of those things did change through that, but I don't know. I think there's more to it. I think people just are so isolated right now.
Why do you think that is? Because I feel like I hear that too. I feel like I've heard people say, I think we've even kind of grappled with this too, feeling lonely. For us, I think some of our feelings of loneliness have come from some of our peers being so busy that we can't get time to get together. Summer is an incredibly full and busy time. So we're kind of feeling that with our life group. And, but it's all around. It's not just, we have a busy schedule too. So it's trying to just navigate that. And, I think we've felt that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. And I think a lot of it's busyness. I think a lot of it is, I don't know. I think even like the illusion of, and part of, I've shared this before that like, I'm not a fan of social media. I understand it has its purpose and I understand that it has good things to it. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes it also isolates us from like real community that we need.
Yeah.
Where I can post something, in lieu of actually talking to somebody or having conversations with somebody.
Yeah.
And then all of my quote unquote friends can see it. Where like in the past, we would have gotten together with people and shared about our vacation and shared about these things. And, so I think some of that is that. I think some of it, as you pointed out, is busyness. Just running 90 miles an hour everywhere possible, and you don't have time for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all that. I think about even, an example, class reunions don't even happen really anymore. But what I've heard is, we already know what everyone's doing. We just see it on social. But it's kind of interesting because I haven't really talked to them. People just scroll and you have the illusion of knowing what people are up to. And you think maybe but really I don't think we have any clue because you're not going to find that out from scrolling through their feed. You may see the highlights, but you're not going to get into this deep, intimate connection. And I get that you're not going to have that with everyone, but you should have that with a group of people. You should have that with a few people that you can get deep with, let those roots grow deep, let them in. And I think as our kids have gotten older, it is challenging to manage some of those relationships, but man, they're so important and your kids are going to be grown and gone someday.
Yeah.
And then the third part of that, so I'm just going to read this again. This is from Hebrews 10:24-25. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. I think the third part is just, time is running out. There is an urgency to it all. Okay. Let me do, I have two more. So this is James 5:16. All right, so there we go. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. All right, repentance.
Yeah, I think this is yes, I think you're right in that, but I also think it's this idea of having, I think, close people that are in your corner that are fighting for your marriage.
Sure.
That if you're struggling with something, whatever it may be, let's say you're just struggling in your relationship, like to have people that you can go to confess this, to talk about it in a safe place.
Yeah.
That that they will be fighting for you.
Yeah. That's not of the world either. You're not, that I feel like that's rare in the world, but to have a close Christian group that you can go to and say that, a safe place.
Yeah.
So I feel like the world is, wants to gossip and tear, oh, it's your spouse's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it gets tricky because, and this is where I think, the importance of community, of good, godly community that will support you, because I think it's easy to find that. Mm-hmm. It's easy to find somebody that will be like, oh, your husband's a loser. You should do something else, blah, 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 blah. I think it's easy to find that.
Yeah.
It's harder to find somebody that'll say, hey, what's going on? Like, why, like, what can we do to help your marriage? What can you do to support, pray, encourage your husband or wife or whatever it is? That's hard. That's hard to find. And it's also hard to confess that.
Yeah.
To go to people and say, hey, I'm really struggling in my relationship. Like, that is not of the world, because the world wants you to post everything and say like, I'm fine, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost, I think, especially for men even, that maybe is even elevated to a different, because like, oh, you're a man, you are not supposed to talk about this. Well, I'm telling you, like, we need to talk about it as well. Where that gets harder is having community where you can do that in a safe spot.
I think too, it's probably easier not to admit, hey, I'm having troubles with parenting. I'm having troubles with this. But to be able to go and talk to a safe person, it does take a braveness and a boldness. But I feel like the reward is always so great when you can then get that out in the open and have that support of your accountability partner. A while back, I think I shared with my accountability partner, like, gosh, I feel like I'm just kind of like short with our daughter. And we're almost so similar in some ways that we butt heads. But I think it is because we both can be similar. And so figuring out how to communicate, because I love her and I want our relationship to be so good. But to be vulnerable enough to just almost in a broken way, be like, gosh, this is how like our conversations or our communication is. And I see it and I don't like it, but I want it to be better. And what can I do? And, working with a counselor on that and sharing it with accountability and sharing it with you and really not just sweeping it under the rug, but really trying to bring that to light and looking at it.
Yeah.
All right. And last one, 1 Peter 4, 8-11. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, he should do it as one speaking with the very words of God. If anyone serves, he should do it with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. Ryan, I love this because it reminds me of a few years back, or 12 years back. I was in this class for my ministerial degree. This class is called Created for Community. It's based on the book Created for Community, or I don't know what the class was, but the book that we read was Created for Community by Stanley J. Grins. And in the book, he just really talks about how God is a God of community. Think about it. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yeah. 3. It's a party.
It is a party. Right. There's community right there. And he says a few things in this book I want to read. When you pray, come before the Father in the name of the Son and by the prompting of the Spirit. So God intends that we reflect the divine nature in our lives. And this is only possible as we move out of isolation and into godly relationships with others. Consequently, true Christian living is life in relationship or life in community. And then it goes on to say, there's just this one line that I want to read that I think is so good. Our purpose is to be a foretaste of the glorious eternity that God will one day graciously give us in His fullness. Our goal is to connect Christian belief with Christian living. And you guys, I think after all these scriptures, I just want you to really think through your community, because I'm sure you all have community, but I think the question is evaluating, is your community connecting your Christian belief with Christian living?
Yeah, that's good.
Is your community connecting your Christian beliefs with Christian living?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good, Michelle. I like that. Are they helping you to grow closer to Christ? I mean, I think that's a great evaluation of looking at that.
You can find community anywhere, right? You could find it in the most unexpected of places. And in some situations, we will go and put ourselves out there because we want to be the light and bring others to Christ with us. But I think the evaluation has to come into this. What direction are you moving? Is your community moving you closer to Christ or farther away?
Yeah.
Ryan, I saw this on a Instagram reel today. You had shared this similar quote with me months ago, but it was along the line of this. What you accept and what you tolerate becomes what you normalize.
Yeah.
What we accept, what we tolerate, eventually becomes what is normalized.
Yeah.
So if your community is full of, vulgar humor, spouse bashing, references to things that you don't want your marriage to be made up of, then it might be time to evaluate your community.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Oh, I mean, that's just so spot on, Michelle. And I think it's just so true. And I think your community will have such strong influence on you, who you are, who you're becoming. And I think it's so powerful to your relationship to have that right community around you to support you and lift you up.
Yeah. I think too, some final checkpoints for our listeners today, and just to encourage them, if you're a part of a local church, get involved in a small group, get involved in a life group, find your people that are going to hold you accountable and be relentless about it. Because that's really there was a season where we were in a life group, but we weren't meeting ever. So we weren't really in a life group. And that was a more lonely, isolated time for us.
Yeah.
And we need it. Even though when we meet with our life group, they'll joke and say like, oh, we feel like we should pay you for therapy. And this is just so good. It's so Christ-centered and so good and so helpful. We benefit too. It's been so good. And we love it. It's so good for all of us. We have 3 couples in our group and it's just great. But I think too, encouraging you, if you're a parent and you're in the thick of things with sports and all that, hey, we get it. Sports are fun. They're good for kids, but don't lose the forest for the trees. I don't even know if that makes sense in this context, but don't lose sight of the bigger prize at stake, which is your walk with Christ, your marriage. The stronger your marriage is, the more you're going to be able to give to your kids and ultimately lead them to Christ. So I think what we've seen in all of these different stages is that people can get so busy about being busy that they totally lose sight. And I just think of the saying, you're going to gain the world and lose your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let that be you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, Michelle, the other thing just that I would like to add is that I think everyone needs community. We've shared that we're created for community. And I think if you are a couple, you're married, you're in a relationship, and you don't think you need other people, it's going to be a challenge. I think you're playing with some fire because things will happen, and you need to have people to lean on that can lift you up, because there's going to be times, there's going to be some challenges that come, and it's so important if people around you that can lift you up, that can be there for you. It's so necessary, and And
Yeah.
believe me, I'm saying this from somebody that is a very introverted person. You know, like I like being alone. I mean, I'm that type of person. I'm very introverted, but I need people. You know, even with that being said, you know, the example that I'm instantly thinking of is my leg. Like this ACL has been a big challenge for me.
Yeah.
It's really kind of shook me. And, you know, I'm the type that'll internalize. I'm the type that won't talk about it. I won't tell you if it hurts. I'll just keep trudging along, you know, but to have people in my life that can come beside me. And I think of Pastor Chris has been amazing. I think our friend Tony has been amazing. And even like our neighbors and some of those people that have wrapped around and just said, hey, whatever you need, I'm here, you know, and to have that where I can actually open up and say, hey, this has been really rough on me. This has been tough. I'm struggling with this. And to have people that can come alongside and lift you up, be praying for you and encouraging you. I mean, I'm just speaking from a man, like it's been very hard for me to open up and share that. And I mean, you've called me out on it a few times, but it also is a relief to have people that you can share with.
Ryan, I think about what happens when you do bring that to light, because you can either internalize it and fester it and kind of go down a negative spot too, or you can bring it out there, get it out there, and have people wrap around you.
Yeah.
So I love that so much. I think our challenge for you, our listener, is to really consider and evaluate your community, your marriage, and your community as it relates to that. So we thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you have some practical steps that you're going to take to your marriage and your relationship. So you can find us at celebrate.church/marriage. You can find us on Instagram, like I said at the start of the show, and you can also text us at 605-951-0110. We hope you have a great rest of your week.
Have a great week.